Hello, folks, and welcome to our viewer video talk of the week. And I just wanted to let you know before we get started that there's going to be a time change on this. It's still going to be on Tuesdays, but it's going to be moving to 8 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time from 7:30. And that's just so that I can get some other things done administratively that usually have to be done on Tuesdays. But we're going to be talking today about something very important, and that is, of course, overcoming obstacles, and overcoming obstacles that are in a certain area. Something that, becomes an issue in people's lives over time, and I hope it's something that is going to be a help to you. We're going to start this right away. Before you is an open door to that which is unknown. Many people fear the unknown, but by taking the step through, you may learn that you gain the knowledge to grow and become, and really experience true freedom. The TDP is a videocast channel on YouTube and stands for the Damned Podcast, because of the forbidden knowledge that we discuss. Subscribe today and hit the bell icon to get notified of our videos as they are released both in recorded and live formats. You will be glad you did. And welcome once again to our video question talk of the week from our viewers. And this is a question I actually posed to our viewers on the Facebook group page that I thought would be interesting to talk about. And of course, those of you that are watching, feel free to ask questions as well on our Facebook group page, on our YouTube channel, on all the different social media platforms that we have. Or you can even email me the questions at thedamnedpodcast@gmail.com. And we can address those questions on the air. Now, the big thing about obstacles, which we're talking about here today, is that there are many, many, many different types of obstacles that we face. And it's something that is true no matter who you are, no matter how much practice you've had in the occult, or if any at all. Challenges, obstacles, and different things that are there to irritate the bejesus out of us are always there. And there is a very powerful and important tool that we need to develop in our lives and constantly continue developing, and that is the intuitive ability to tell the difference between an obstacle that is an actual challenge that is there to face us on our path to make us stronger, and that which is really unnecessary but has come as a result of either our own bad decisions and poor judgment, or perhaps somebody else who is in their egoic mind trying to push us down. Regardless of how that works, whether it's from the spiritual realms or whether it's from the things here in this world. We need to be able to tell the difference because, of course, those things that are there as legitimate challenges for us to face, we most likely agreed to prior to ever being incarnated into this world because they had certain lessons to teach us. And if we make those kind of go away, what ends up happening is it comes around again because it's a lesson to be learned. And it's something you really can't get away from. You have to face it. Now, when you're dealing with challenges like that, when you're dealing with obstacles like that, then the tack that you take is how to get through it, how to get around it, how to get over it, how to get under it, how to move through it in such a way that you have the most beneficent results in your life, however unpleasant the situation might be. But there are many, many challenges that we face in our lives that have nothing to do with things that are there to help us grow. And yes, they may still help us grow, and they should help us grow, but they are not necessary for us to go through. They're things that, either through our own poor judgment and bad decision-making process, or through the things that other people have done, or perhaps things that spirits have done, well, we approach those in a very different way. All right. Now, I wanted to talk about couple of different ways that we can deal with this. All right. First of all, when we do find challenges that actually are for our growth, that's number one. We need to take stock of why we might be going through this. This is not to say that we should be sitting there asking ourselves, why me? No, that's a load of bullshit. Really, what we need to be doing at that point in time is be asking ourselves, what lesson am I most apt to be learning from this situation? Okay, how can I demonstrate that I understand this lesson, that I have incorporated this lesson into my life? Okay, you start doing things proactively in that fashion, and then however unpleasant the situation is, we move through it with that in mind, not being cowed, not being defeated, moving forward. And in that situation, then we become stronger. And the good news is, unless we make foolish decisions, that particular lesson is one we don't have to repeat. Now, when we're removing obstacles from our path that are from spiritual forces that really are not necessary for us, things that really were not of any use for us to grow by or anything else, realize that spirits, whether they be egregores, whether they be actual spirits, whether they be the spirits of the dead, still can have very, what could we call it, egoic ideologies and ways of trying to push people down because of whatever they had in life, if they are a departed person, or because of the fact that they are just so chaotic that they have nothing really in organization that they grow by themselves, that they just get off on doing things to cause you suffering and pain, because the energy that you release in that frustration actually is something they feed on. Okay? When you face situations like that, then your approach is the exact opposite of going through it, going around it, going over it, like if it's a challenge that is there to help you grow. Here, you look upon it as an attack. Now, how are you going to respond? Well, you cannot respond in any of these situations, including the one I'm going to discuss next, which is institutions or individuals here in this world. You cannot respond with weakness. You cannot respond with being too nice. Okay, well, how is that something that's wrong? It's just not my personality. Well, I like one thing that was put in an initiation ceremony where it said that too much mercy or too much kindness is weakness of will, and, as it were, being an accomplice to that which is completely unhelpful to life by inaction. Okay? There needs to be a balance in our lives that we reach where we are not being petty. That's never something that really helps anybody, including us. But where we are not doormats either. And that includes the spirits of the dead, egregores, which are artificial spirits created by people's belief and devotion, and actual spirits that just have it in for you for whatever reason. Okay? When you're dealing with that, you need to deal with it with extreme prejudice. And by that, I'm not meaning that word in a negative sense. I'm meaning it in the positive sense of you standing up for yourself, okay? Because that actually earns you respect among the spirits as much as it does among your peers. All right? Who was the one that got picked on all the time in school? The person usually that never fought back. Okay? My father used to tell me, you know, don't ever start a fight. Well, I never followed that exactly, but to get the point of what he was saying, he said, if somebody starts one with you, make sure you're the one that finishes it. All right? There is something to be said about being able to stand up for yourself so that you don't have to put up with the types of obstacles that are unnecessary for your growth, but are still there causing you problems? Well, one of the things that you can do, and I'm going to go into this in a little bit and show you some things here, is magically. Now, especially when you're dealing with spirits, this is one of the most potent ways that you can work to deal with that. I like a particular stanza in the Havamal where it's talking about the spell songs of Odin. And it says, when I see witches making sport in the air, and of course that's an unfortunate translation. It actually means basically malevolent spirits making sport of you or me in our area. There is a song I know, the stanza goes, where they lose their form and are confounded and lost. That is a powerful spell, and actually you can use the Elder Futhark rune Yera, I'm going to show you that in a few minutes, or the younger Futhark equivalent, which is Ar, two different forms, the same basic meaning, and cause them to be completely discomfited. It can hurl their influence out of your life. And actually it does it quite ignorantly. And so they are deserving of it in that respect. This can help you when you have issues of, even unwanted paranormal activity that might be happening and you're not interested in investigating it, you just want to get it out of there. This is something that can help. Now, there are other things that you can do, too. You can call forth elemental spirits. You can call forth spirits through evocation, and that's the same for both people here in this world and also spirits of the dead and egregores and so forth. But the way in which you work the magic, even though the methods are different, has the same formula. Okay, so I'm wanting you to catch that. All right. Now, when you're dealing with spirits, you want to make sure that you are not doing something that aggravates them by, opening yourself up to unwanted influence through poor decision making. Okay? If you're getting a challenge or an obstacle because of something you did, then, of course, your tack is to apologize for what you've done and then seal yourself off. And that rune, to do that, would be Elhaz. And you can do that as well with a symbol called the Ayas-Yalmer, or the Eye of the Dragon. Okay, but when it is not because of something you did, you can be using the more aggressive and forceful means. And this is also something that works with the spirits of the dead. Because just because they're physically deceased doesn't mean that on the side of life and death that they got smarter somehow, or that they lost their prejudices, or that they lost their opinions, or maybe they have some sort of knee-jerk reaction because they never thought that things would be the way they are on the other side of life and death, and they're afraid, and they're just lashing out. Whatever the reason, these things work to deal with them. And you can use runes, or you can use other types of spiritual power to deal with them. Let's say you were going to use elemental power to deal with spirits of the dead, or even perhaps an entity, a non-human variety entity. All right, if it was passionate and aggressive, you could use a fire elemental. If it was emotional and psychological, you could use a water elemental. If it was something where you knew there were some sort of assault on your thought processes, and perhaps you sensed as well through your intuition there were schemes being wrought against you, you could use an air elemental. If it was something that was hitting you financially or in your worldly possessions, you could use an earth elemental. You see how these things can be done. And of course, you can also use runes to access these types of forces as well, because of course, to give an example, the rune Lagus is great to access the power of water. And of course, through that, deal with the water spirits, the waters of the sea, or the waters of the spirits of the river. You could use runes like Tiwaz to deal with spirits of the air. Okay, because of course, thought is the fluid, if you want to call it that, of the air elementals, and of course Tyr, the administrator of the gods in that sense of the word, because that was his leadership style, relates very much to air. Many of the runes have multiple associations too. It's not just locked into one. I'm just giving you examples. Okay, but making a bind rune is a very simple, especially if you're new, way to be able to deal with these things. Now, what do you do if it is people that are alive in this world, or institutions, or something that's going on that is causing this, and you know it's not something that, you made a poor decision and now you're facing it. Now it's something that, these people just have it out for you for some reason. Well, what do you do with them? Okay? Well, first of all, you have to take a look at the severity of what it is that's going on. Don't hit a fly with a hammer. All right? Do what you want. Personally, I wouldn't do it that way because, of course, you want to have something that can be respected among the spirits, and pettiness is very rarely respected by any spirits of light or of darkness. Okay? So, make the punishment fit the crime. All right? If it's serious, okay, what you would want to do is make a bind rune that perhaps uses the younger Futhark runes, because they are very active and very powerful in sorcerous acts. I find, and this is just my own experience, and others will have something different, but my own experience with the runes has been that the Elder Futhark is powerful for religious symbolism and for some forms of magic. The Anglo-Saxon Futhorc is tremendous for meditation. The younger Futhark has been the best for sorcerer's applications, with the most variety of ways it can be applied. Now, others may have a different experience, and that's just as valid. I'm just telling you what it's been for me. But you could take the rune Ir, which is the last rune, the 16th rune of the younger Futhark. Again, I'm going to show you this in a moment, both with this and with the other rune I was talking about. That is a very powerful rune, the rune Ir. It is the giant of the arrow, we are told in the old Icelandic rune poem. It is used in death curses, too, by the way. It is very potent. Now, what you might want to do with that, especially if you feel that you have been wronged, is you might want to add Tyr to that mix, because that's, of course, the victory rune. And you might want to also add the rune Ar, which is the younger Futhark version of Yera that we talked about just a moment ago, to the mix. And you might want to add the rune Not, which is the younger Futhark version of Nauthis, to this rune. And you'll see what happens, because I'll show you this in a moment. There are runes that are created that you didn't really think of when you make a bind rune. And all of these things, to a lesser or greater degree, come into effect. What that would do is it would create a force that, if you follow the steps I'm going to go through in a moment here, strike with unmitigated gall against any target that you so name. And it's very, very difficult, especially with rune magic, to defend against it, because it is such a primal, almost prehistoric force. Okay? Realize that some of the proto-runes were found etched on cave walls. So we're talking about a lot of energy, focus, and thought that has been given to all of these things for a long, long time. Now, you can use other ways, and like I said, the methods may be different, but the formula isn't. And you'll see that in just a moment. Actually, we're going to go to that, and I'm going to just see where that is. You're going to see something that looks a little bit like warp drive in a second. All right. So go over here, and I'm going to have to minimize a few things. Okay, there you go. When I was talking about dealing with spirits, if you watch this screen here, I'm going to draw on it here. The rune I was talking about, where you can quote that rune stanza of that spell song of Woden, is the rune Yera. And it looks something like this. I hope you can see what I'm doing here. And some people draw it the other way around. That's okay. All right. I'm no artist, but that's what that looks like in the Elder Futhark and the Anglo-Saxon Futhark. It looks the same. Now, in the Younger Futhark, the rune Ar, which is the same meaning, kind of looks like a backwards mouth is. So I'll draw it like so. Okay, that's what the rune Not looks like, or the rune Nauth. And you'll see, or not, pardon me, it's not the rune Nauth, this is the rune Ar, but it looks like a backwards Naut or Nothish. Nothish has the angular cross beam coming the other direction. All right, now this is where you would charge this, and you would use your blood, of course, to charge the stave, whether you drew it on paper or carved it on wood. Now, if you drew it on paper, what you would do is you would hold your intent that whatever it is that has been brought against you would be shoved right back with all force against what brought it against you, whatever ghost, whatever spirit, whatever entity, whatever. And you would put yourself into a state of extreme passion on this issue. Okay? Once you reach the apex of that working, you then take this, if you drew it on paper, and burn it. If you did not, if you carved it, you would take it and bury it in a cemetery. The moment you either burn it or bury it in the cemetery, you transmute your emotion, and this is very important, from this wrath to a sense of gratitude that it has already been accomplished. I'm going to go into why in just a moment, but this is very important. Now, for dealing with people, the bind rune I was talking about here starts out with the rune Ir. And I've got to get this here. And you'll see this in just a moment here. The rune Ir. Okay. It looks kind of like this. And I hope you're seeing this. Now, I'm a terrible artist, but that's about what it looks like in a way. Now, if you were going to add Tiwaz to that, like I said, remember, this is the giant of the arrow. And Tiwaz, or Tyr, is the rune of the, it represents the victory and the type of bravery and courage shown by the Norse god Tyr. All right? Don't confuse the two for being the exact same, because one's a rune and one's a god. But if you really feel that you have been wrong, this is a great thing to add to this. And so what you would do is you would just make that, because Tyr looks like a spear or an arrow, which is kind of appropriate here. There. Now, Tyr is added to it. Now you wanted to add the rune Ar, because of course this is also taking and giving back by the very powers of nature itself that which has been thrust upon you. Okay, so we go and we make the rune Ar. And then I said something about sending the rune Nauth, or Nauthis. And okay, let's do that. And a bind rune is taking several runes and making a single glyph. Now realize that right in here, okay, the rune Gifu or Gibo has been created. And that sort of accentuates everything because that's the gift for a gift principle. That's what looks like a giant X. And so with Ir, Tyr, Ar, and Nauth, that's all the runes that are being charged in this, you find yourself in the situation where Gibo or Gifu is created, and the gift for a gift principle, what has been thrust at you justly and in return is going right back at the individuals that caused you grief. Now, with that, I want to just close out the display capture. There we go. The formula for using this is to, and I'm going to reiterate so that you get it as clearly as possible, is you build your intent. And then when you're enacting the ritual, you allow yourself to enter into a paroxysm of fury. And this is quite okay. You are exercising a right to be upset about something or someone putting obstacles in your path. And especially with this last binder and that's dealing with people here in the world of limitation, or, even groups, you are allowed to be angry. Okay? It's all right. And you allow yourself to get into that paroxysm of rage over that issue and see in your mind's eye that power, whether it's the binder in here or whether it's a spirit that you've evoked or whether it's a god that you've called upon or what have you, the formula is the same, striking that target, penetrating deeply with deathly consequences, as however far you want to take it. When you feel the apex of that has been reached, you either burn it or bury it in a graveyard. You transmute your feeling, your emotion from that fury, and this takes a little bit of control of your emotions, into gratitude for what has been called forth having already been accomplished. And it's important to have that past tense because tomorrow never comes, folks. And we are always in the ever-present moment. When you focus on it as being past tense, though, that actually sets the wheels in motion that bring about manifestation. Now, this may seem like it's been a harsh video when it comes to, things to do, but you know what? Too many people decide to be doormats because of the fact that they don't want to give offense. Well, you know what? The people that walked over you didn't mind giving offense. And if you didn't do anything to invite that, and it's not part of your learning process in this world to go through that, then you know what? Grab the magical tools that are in your hand and get rid of it. And if necessary, move them out of the picture too. Because if a person has decided to get in the way of the true will of another individual, then it must be their true will to get dealt with. Because you understand, if everyone was following in the footsteps of their authentic self, we wouldn't have any of the conflicts that we see out there anyway, because one person's true will doesn't actually tread on another person's. There's enough within the infinite for everyone to have an infinite realm. It's when we start focusing with the egoic mind that we get into these situations, and sometimes they have to be dealt with. So I hope this is something as well in the topic matter. The way that I've tried to do this, I've been using some things I'm not that familiar with. I hope it's been a help to you. And of course, I'm going to be going through the questions or any comments that are listed in the comments on Facebook or on YouTube, as this is going to be on YouTube at 10 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. And I'll look for questions or comments there too. And I will get back to you and make sure that you're not left hanging. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I'm Daniel, the host of the TDP video casts. Until next time.